What is up, YouTube? It's Josh. This is the Den of Nerds. This video is going to be all about Game of Thrones, and it's basically going to be a review of season 6 of Game of Thrones. So this channel was not up in the middle of Game of Thrones, so I didn't feel right about doing episode reviews from the time that the channel started, especially because I started the channel during some not so hot episodes. So I decided, you know, we've had the finale, we know basically where we're going from here. I want to do a review of the entire season, give you guys my thoughts, and basically take a temperature of where Game of Thrones is at right now. So overall, let me tell you, I thought that the season was really awesome, but it had a lot of problems. The state of the show, as far as I'm concerned, going into the season was really shaky. I absolutely love the first season of Game of Thrones. It's still my favorite season, and I thought that it did a pretty good job of going from season 1 up to season 4. There were a lot of twists, a lot of turns, a lot of really good storytelling. But season 5 had major problems for me. I remember watching the first 5 to 6 episodes and just being like, what exactly is happening? What plots are we forwarding? It felt really dragged on, really contrived. And I tell people this all the time, but that scene in the Dornish Gardens where Bronn and Jaime fight the guards and the Sand Snakes, I could literally hear Pink Panther music playing in my head while that was going on. That's how contrived and awful I thought that particular scene was. Now, having said that, there is an episode in that season that until this current season became my favorite episode of all time, and that is Hardhome. Episode, I believe it was episode 8 of season 5. Hardhome was my favorite of that entire series. Now, the guy who directed that episode's name is Miguel Sapochnik, and I'm going to say that name a couple more times because he also directed episode 9 and episode 10 of the current season, or I guess the season we just got done with, season 6. So Miguel Sapochnik, incredible director, directed Hardhome in season 5. That's my favorite episode until I watched Battle of the Bastards and Winter is Coming. Was my favorite episode of the entire show, wedged into my least favorite season of Game of Thrones in general. So going into the season, I was like, wow, they really have to pick up the pace. They really have to handle their shit because, wow, this thing is really taking a dive, okay? Now, let's break this down. I'm going to do the good, I'm going to then do the bad, and then I'm going to do the ugly of the season. So let's start with the good. The good was the beginning of the season. Episodes 1 through 5 were absolute fire to me. I thought it was amazing. I know some people had problems with episode 1. I thought it did a really good job of kind of just giving you back the status quo of where everybody was at in their particular stories. So I forgave it for the, you know, the exposition and kind of the setup that it had to do. It's episode 1. And I thought it was really great. We go then, and we have Jon Snow coming back to life in episode 2. It blew my mind when it happened. I was like, wow, they're going to do this quickly? This was really crazy. And of course, they leave it there. And episode 3, it was so well directed. It starts off with him breathing, and it's actually Davos, you know, breathing. And they have this really crazy scene, and he's back to life, and it's like really weird. And I thought that was really cool. The whole story at the Sept and the High Sparrow taking more power, I thought that was really cool. So the pacing from episodes 1 to 5 was incredible. And the last 2 episodes, which I'm going to circle back to because they really nail home this season and are some of the best television I have ever seen. Some of the best television, I repeat, that I have ever seen. It was really incredible stuff. The Kingsmoot was awesome. There's a lot of good stuff in there, okay? Now let's go on to the bad. The bad is the writing. It's incredibly sloppy. There are conflictions in the way people travel, in the motivations of characters, in the way that characters remember things. It's chock full of plot holes, even in some of the good episodes. I'll give you a really quick example. In the Battle of the Bastards, Sansa leaves, their little parlay, leaves before Ramsay says that he hadn't fed his dogs in 7 days. She didn't know. And it was a huge point at the end of the episode where she comes in and she's like, well, you haven't fed them in 7 days. She didn't know that. There's also the fact that they brought Lord Edmure up to the castle. In the book, I believe they bring him in up for 30 days straight, and they are going to hang him if they don't, you know, surrender the castle or let him in. And the Blackfish is like, nah, 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 don't do that, don't do that. And all the men are listening. And then when Edmure shows up again, they're literally so held by honor to listen to their lord that they surrender the castle. So like, there are things like that that really don't make sense. They seem really sloppy. The Arya storyline, which I'm going to get to in a second because I think it's really ugly. These are just problems in general with the writing. I feel like because they're not adapting anymore, there's nothing for them to adapt to, they have to kind of take a hard look at where they want to end and how they have to move characters into certain positions and certain items into certain positions in order to make the ending that they want to have happen. So they are sacrificing good characters and continuity and consistency in order to get the show to a place that it needs to be. Now let's go to the ugly. The ugly is Arya. Arya's storyline seems to me to be a complete waste. It really infuriated me the episode after she got stabbed, that she was so hurt that she had to seek help from that actress. She's aware that going and traveling with her would put her in danger, and yet not aware that being there for help also puts her into danger. She's too wounded to just leave, and yet she Jason Bourne jumps out of a window and runs down the street while being chased by the waif. That whole storyline made zero sense to me, and I think that it comes to a zero-sum total. And what the hell was with Jaqen giving her that really, really cheesy smile after he says, "I'm Arya of House Stark," blah, blah, blah. And he gives this like 80s cop movie smile that should have like ended the episode with some cheesy music. It was super crappy. So that storyline was totally fumbled, mishandled completely. And then she teleports to the phrase to do the Frey pie situation at the end of the season, which was just, it was in the middle of a really great episode, so I forgave it, but wow, it doesn't make any sense. I also felt like the Hound coming back was just out of nowhere. That whole episode seemed super contrived. I mean, come on, he's peaceful, and they have this group of people that essentially are only there to die in order to give him a reason to come back to the fight. I thought that that whole plot line really didn't make a lot of sense, and I realized they want to get the Brotherhood Without Banners and one of the fan favorite characters up to the north. They're setting all this stuff up for the War for the Dawn, and I totally get that, but that just felt like a complete wasted episode to me, and it didn't matter. I didn't care. I mean, I liked the Hound, but I didn't really care. And then the payoff you thought you were going to get with him fighting his brother has been put off because they don't have the trial by combat thing anymore. So that's basically the ugly, and really that Arya's line, I just hope she dies. At this point, Arya, to me, you're dead to me, and I hope the show kills you off. And I know that's going to piss some people off. Let me know in the comment section below. Are you mad that I said that? Let's talk about the last two episodes. Let's talk about the Battle of the Bastards and Winds of Winter. Now, I want to say, going into these last two episodes, I had the overall score for the season at a 5 out of 10, with super high levels of disappointment running through my veins. I was super disappointed. I was ready to write the show off completely. In fact, you can even ask some people, I was actually writing a script for a video I was going to do called Does Game of Thrones Suck Balls?, where I was going to make case after case as to why the show has really dropped the ball and now sucks. I'm really glad that I didn't do that video because the last two episodes were amazing. We're going to talk about Miguel Sapochnik again. His direction in the last two episodes were amazing. They need to get this guy to direct a whole season. I don't care what kind of money you have to pay him. By the way, side note, all of the 5 main actors for the show just increased their contracts. I think they're literally getting $500,000 per episode. So that's probably why they're bringing the number of episodes down. But you need to at least be paying that to Miguel Sapochnik because, wow, these episodes were incredible. Okay, so Battle of the Bastards, one of the best fight scenes I have ever seen. The pacing of the episode, the character moments, and you were in it with them in that battle. Even though I have some problems with plot holes here and there, the good direction of Miguel completely takes that off of the table. I'm not going to sit here and deny good television, okay? Now the writing, a little bit shaky, but that was incredible television. And then Winds of Winter, my new favorite episode of Game of Thrones of all time. The way that he directed the first half hour, which wrapped up Cersei's plot with the High Septon, or the High Sparrow rather, and the Septon, and Tomlin, and her revenge on the Nun, and everything, all of that. The way that it was directed was incredible. I didn't even mind the plot holes of like, why would this kid bring Lancel down there to almost ruin the plan just to see the candles? That seems really, really odd. But all that kind of stuff was literally washed away by incredible directing, okay? Then you have, of course, the awesome scenes with Dany and the wrapping up of that storyline and her finally getting on her way to Westeros, right? You finally have House Targaryen completely coming back. The Dornish are now with them, and it's going to be really, really incredible. That's going to be a formidable force. So Dany's got her peeps. We get the payoff for the Tower of Joy, which, by the way, I just want to really quickly explain this to people, because a lot of people have questions. Why doesn't Dany have a better claim than Jon Snow if he's the actual... Let me explain this real quick. So, the Targaryens practice polygamy, okay? So a lot of people think, well, if Jon's just a bastard, he has no claim. That's correct. But the theory, and this is heavily implied in the books, was that Lyanna and Rhaegar actually got married, which would have been completely legal. They practice polygamy. They're the royal family. They pretty much do what they want. So if he married her, that would make Jon the first son of the first son, okay? So in the way that the lineage falls with Targaryens, the son of the first son has a higher claim or a better claim to the throne when the first son dies than the second son of the king. And because she's a woman, it kind of has to do with the fact that she's a woman, but really it has to do with that whole son of the first son thing. So let's clear that up. But we get the payoff for that, even though we don't explicitly hear that he's Rhaegar's child. We know that he's Lyanna's, and we know that Robert would kill him if he found out. That's important. I think that it's pretty obvious. They might be saving that one for George to expound on in the books. And rightfully so. That's a big payoff for him. So they might just be trying to tell you without telling you. Either way, we get the big payoff for that. And then we get this scene that fixes a lot of the problems I had with some of the slower episodes. And that is the crowning of the new king in the north, the White Wolf. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I literally teared up because it just felt like a culmination of all these different things that were going on, right? It was Lady Mormont remembering that the North remembers about the Red Wedding. That's what it all has to do with. The Red Wedding is the catalyst for the North remembering, right? That's what they're remembering is the Red Wedding. So basically, when Robb became the king in the North, this was a big deal, and some people refused to call to Robb. And others did not. Lady Mormont calls a bunch of bitches out. It was dope. Whoever that actress is, she's incredible, and we need more of her. That other scene where they were recruiting people, I was actually a little disappointed with that scene, because I was like, wow, yeah, she's a great actress, such a cool character, but what's the point? 62 men? What's the point? Now I know what the point is, because it brings her into the fold in order for her to give this impassioned speech. There is only one king, and his name is Stark. And what's crazy about that is Jon is a bastard. He doesn't even have the Stark name. And now he's a king. So he could literally, by decree, make himself Jon Stark. Royal decree is one of the things that can take a bastard and give them their actual house name. So he could literally legitimize himself at this point. But even if he doesn't, he's the king in the North. He now has the support of not only the Knights of the Vale, which is super weird that they're up there now yelling King in the North, but he has the support of all of the northern houses. The North is now unified once again, and they've got a fucking noble-ass king, Jon Snow, with a Valyrian steel blade. He has allies at the Wall. He has the Wildling allies. This seems like a really good thing, not only for the North, but for Westeros, because now they can be united against the armies of the dead when they come. But yeah, that scene was incredible. It literally, like I said, I teared up because I was like, yes, like he's finally getting what he deserves. We're finally getting this big reward from this tragedy that's befallen all the Starks and Jon, and how rough he has had it. And I mean, he literally got killed for what he believed in. And now he's a king, which is really interesting. So I thought that was really awesome. Let's say Miguel again. Miguel's sympathetic because it's so crazy to me that we knew the Knights of the Vale were coming in the Battle of the Bastards, and we essentially knew that Cersei was going to blow everybody up. And yet, the way that he directed those, I was begging for the Knights of the Vale to show up. I was literally begging for them to show up, which is just great directing. And I was on the edge of my seat, and I didn't know if it was really going to happen when Lancel's crawling towards the wildfire and it's all being, you know, elevated at that point. It was so crazy to me. I didn't know if it was going to actually happen. So that's just great directing. So I overall have to say that this season is my second favorite season, second to, of course, season 1, which is still my favorite. These last 2 episodes were some of the best television I've ever seen. I'm really glad I didn't do that video about how Game of Thrones might suck, because it definitely does not, and I'm pretty pumped about where we're at and where we are heading. I mean, think about it. We've got Daenerys, and with her army of ships coming to Westeros. We've got Jon, the King of the North. Cersei sits on the Iron Throne, and the Army of the Dead is still coming. So there's a lot more to come. I can't wait to see where we go from here. And there's a lot to love if you're a Game of Thrones fan. So let me know in the comment section below. What do you think of this season? Who's your favorite character? Do you think that Jon is a Targaryen? Let's talk some Game of Thrones in these comments, guys. Just let me know what's going on. Time to check that nerd card. This question is going to be about something that happened earlier in this season. And the question is, what is the name of Arthur Dayne's big Valyrian steel sword? Now, this sword was shown in the episode that had the flashback of the Tower of Joy. In the episode, Arthur stabs it into the ground and then uses a dual wielding approach, but it's a very important sword. It is a sword that Ned takes back to his family because of how honorable he thought the knight was and how well he battled at the Tower of Joy. So what is the name of Arthur Dayne's sword? Answer the question in the comment section below. Like the video if you thought it was awesome. Subscribe to the channel, and hope you guys are having an awesome and nerdy day. See ya!